Welcome to the Ambitious Coach Lab, powered by 90. I'm your host, Dr. Cam Lawson. Each week, we explore the real tactics, tough conversations, and breakthrough moments that drive coaching success. Let's jump into today's episode. Hello, friends. We have got Ben Blankenship with us today. I am so excited about this conversation. Ben and I have gotten to know each other over the last few years, and I've just been so impressed with him. Ben is a certified scaling up coach, a CEPA, a certified exit planning advisor. He is also a certified PMP and a former EOS implementer. So all the credibility, we were actually just joking before we got on here of the all the cred behind and all the certifications that you can get. But really interested in learning more about why you went down the route that you did. So tell us a little bit more about how you got to being the coach that you are today.
Yeah, Cam, it's so good to visit with you. Thank you for the invitation. Always a pleasure to hang out with you. Yeah, so the I think the story is kind of goes back to the beginning. I Out of high school, I decided to become a professional chef. I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, and really started building the foundation for the coach I am today. What's really interesting if you think about what it takes to be a chef, think about the atmosphere, or the environment. There's a lot of planning for the future, what's gonna happen tomorrow, next week, the next month, um, and then you back that all the way up to what's gonna happen a minute from now. And so when you think about the world of coaching, there's all this emphasis on strategic planning, but then there's this really important part that comes right after that, which is the execution. And so chefs are built to do that. Not only that, but under really high stress environments, hot and cold, sharp, heavy, slippery. Will my staff show up? Yes or no? Right? Am I going to get burnt? um, so it's a bit of a tumultuous environment where you're also always thinking about the strategy, the tactics, and, like, really executing at a high level. So, um, I became after graduating, I became a chef at the age of 21 for there was this, beautiful resort in the Colorado Rockies, and then I went back to school and studied finance, and I joined the founding team of Qdoba Mexican Grill. It's called, Qdoba Mexican Eats now, and, real interesting fun fact for the listeners, Qdoba used to be called Zuma Mexican Grill, which was named after one of the 2 general partners. Their black cat was named Zuma. So anyway,
There you
little
go.
Qdoba trivia for everybody out there. And so when I got into that role, I not only was doing a lot of the menu stuff, but I shifted into more scaling. So I got into restaurant design, planning out territories, real estate site selection, construction management, kind of like market grand openings. I got into some outsourcing of food products and kind of scaled menu development at that point. And then I finally was working with franchisee partners or operating and financial partners to help them identify and then build and grow their markets as well. So again, there was this another layer of strategy, converting strategy to tactics and tactics to execution. Um, and uh, and so all of those reps of really exercising from kind of ideation to like boots on the ground and really seeing get into action, I think was kind of the bedrock for who I am today. After I got out of the restaurant business, we sold Qdoba. That was a great for everybody with sweat equity. I did a bunch of different things for profits and nonprofits, and worked as a CFO and a chief operating officer. I was a CEO for a bit of time as well, and uh, and what I realized through that time was I am a sprinter, I am a builder, I am a fixer. I am not a long-term sustainer. So that's kind of where my energy is at. And coaching was really the right blend of everything for me. I was able to go to the strategy, the tactics, the execution, and by the opportunity to work with several different clients, it really fed my curiosity, which is,
Mm.
I think, one of my strong traits that has to be fed. So, anyhow, that's a lot of my journey to becoming a coach. I started as an EOS implementer. I did a self implementation with one of my when I was an employee with an organization. and I found, EOS to be wonderfully, simple
Mm,
and prescriptive, and, got into EOS for a while and then was just looking for a few different things and gravitated over to scaling up both amazing platforms, but gravitated over to scaling up, and so now today, I would say I am a business coach that's highly, focused on value creation. So I
mm.
pull some of that CFO background back in, and a lot of the strategy and tactics, of course, and really think about value creation plans and how to, really create a clear pathway towards creating greater enterprise value for my clients. And sometimes that means an exit, and sometimes that means the opportunity for additional investment and growth from there.
Yeah, man, I love that. Such a cool, unique background, and I love the narrative that you've been able to find through that. That's something that I think is, even in the age of AI. I was talking to a friend about this the other day. AI is great, and there's all sorts of things that we can go in and build, but there's a story that we individually bring to everything. And as we go into strategic planning, as we go into working with clients and all these different things, the end of the day, it's the stories that make things come to
Yeah,
life, and I think that are
yeah,
so applicable, and you have such a unique ability to be able to provide that even from early days of being a chef, tying those into how that appealed to, like, core parts of you that inevitably led you to becoming a coach. I think
mm,
that's so cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, talk a little bit about some of the things that maybe excite you going forward as you are now with all the different things that we mentioned before, but as you go into this next year, we're recording here kind of at the tail end of January, but
Yeah, yeah.
what does 2025 and beyond look like for your practice?
Well, I will say this, I am definitely the best version of myself. I love what I do.
Mm,
So I'm going to keep on keeping on with the business coaching. I am a continuous learner, so I will continue to feed my brain, and I mean, for that matter, my body and my soul as well. I think that that's important to feed all parts of us. Talk more about that later, but I would say that, my intentionality, moving forward into 25, 26. First of all, my words for this year is, uh, more no's for better yeses, and so that
mm,
really speaks to just making sure that there's really good alignment between, who I am and what I stand for and the value I can bring to my client partners
mm,
and my client partners, and making sure that they're up for the ride with me because it's a big investment of time and
mm,
energy and, stretching and growing together. I would say that regarding kind of market size, I will continue to focus on, like, lower middle market, say 5 million to 250 million annual revenue companies. I am going to be more intentional about focusing on, owners and CEOs that are working towards an exit. I think that
mm,
that's really kind of the final exam or, the big win, for the value creation pathway
mm,
is an exit. That's super exciting. And so, it won't be exclusively exit, focused organizations, but I will be making a more intentional focus on companies that wanna exit. There certainly are a lot that will need to
mm.
based on, companies owned by baby boomers and them needing to transfer their wealth. So I would say that those are some of my intentionalities and things I'm pretty excited about, moving forward in the next year or 2.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a strategic partnership with EPI, so the organization that certifies the SEPAs, and so we were fascinated with that because there is, I mean, over the next 10 years, I truly believe you are going to see a lot of boomer specifically owned organizations. There is going to be a transfer of wealth, so huge opportunity to take a look at your organization and figure out, okay, what do I need to be true for me to exit, and then also to drive the most value. So I think you are uniquely positioned with your experience both in scaling up and EOS and understanding that aspect and then having the personal side of it. I love that. And I love your clear vision for that. Can you talk a little bit about one of the things that we believe is a core competency of building a coaching practice is creating a clear vision for who you are as a coach, what you practice, all of that, you have to be crystal clear on that. So can you talk a little bit about your why and how that guides you as you read your practice on a daily basis?
Well, so my tagline is "Lead with impact, live with purpose," and really what that means is if you take a step back and you think about what it means to be a business coach, we go into organizations and we work with, at first, CEOs or owners and their leadership teams. And we bring clarity to their vision. We bring their purpose, their why for existing, core values and core beliefs and core behaviors. We help clarify their mission and their long term goals. We help bring self awareness to individual team members and psychological safety to their teams. We help give them new language for effective communication and how to be really results driven and
Mhm,
keeping things positive versus negative. And if you think about it, like all of those personal assets that you're helping develop, they don't stay in the office.
mhm,
They bring those home. So now all of those lessons that they just learned in the workplace, they're starting to share with their spouses and with their
mhm,
children and with their friends and with their other loved ones. And there's a chance to level up several people
mhm,
based on one touch. And so if you think about it, it's pretty profound the number of lives that you're impacting, outside of the organization with whom you're serving. And then certainly not only that, but you think about just maintaining livelihoods, and if the company grows and prospers more and in better ways, then
mhm,
everybody working there does too. That is an awesome privilege, right? To truly touch lives.
mhm,
And so when I think of, like, lead with impact and live with purpose, I'm talking about, like, living intentionally, leading intentionally, and, like, having a real purpose in life to be a positive influence, not only internally in your organization, but externally as well. So that's why I get up and do this work. It's the opportunity to touch lives, to be frank with you. That one of the byproducts of the way I work is increasing enterprise value, but it all starts with the people. You know?
right.
If the people are aligned and can share a vision and they have a rhythm together and they're going in the same direction, that's just a byproduct of
Mhm.
all of that.
Man,
So
that's so good. And you've talked a little bit about this when we talked through just what's the next plan for your organization. But you talked when we met originally about this, about creating standards for your practice, while instead of just it almost after realizing you were saying yes to everything. And I think this
yeah.
ties into your vision, but can you talk a little bit about what that means to you?
I think as in many things with life, we learn from doing. Some of the best lessons anyway are learning from doing and kind of having things maybe not work out every time. And so I learned that not every potential engagement is right for
Mhm,
me, and through some of those engagements that didn't go exactly as I would have hoped, um, I created, some standards, and
mhm,
my standards are, committed to being transparent and having authentic relationships.
mhm,
This is not a transaction. A coaching relationship is very intimate. It's very confidential.
mhm,
And so there has to be a relationship and it has to be very authentic, and you have to get everything out on the table, and a commitment to supporting a culture of collaboration and trust. Like the things that coaches unpack with teams, starting with that executive leadership team, starting with the CEO and owner, but then with the executive leadership team, that's some pretty high trust stuff.
mhm,
And there has to be that open collaboration and that sense of trust building, the commitment to maintaining a mindset of curiosity and innovation. I've run across some experiences where there was very little curiosity,
mhm,
that At least some of the folks on the team thought that they had it all figured out, and that's not gonna help you scale.
Mm,
That's not gonna help you grow and get healthy and be ready to scale. And then a commitment to self-awareness and
mm,
personal improvement, and then the evolution of others. So, something else I ran across was some leadership teams were committed to just investing in themselves, and that's where the investment stopped. And so all of the management level and other roles in their organization, those folks did not get
mm,
uh, the opportunity to grow themselves in such an intentional way. I realize that there's budget considerations everywhere, but there are some free or pretty inexpensive ways
right,
that I think we can invest in folks. And
mm,
so that was another really important part. And there are 4 more, so just bear with me. And so the other piece is kind of the first is committed to, the second section is ready to, and
mm,
ready to invest funds in experienced coaching and advising. So, I've run across some cheapskates in my past, it's an investment. So, one of the things I'm kinda hearing myself, give my spiel, but coaching is not an expense line item. It is absolutely an investment, and
right,
I think every client should expect a return on investment.
mm,
And so, for new coaches out there, I think that's really important for you to hear is we are investments and we bring ROIs, and you should be able to show your return on investment.
mm,
They're ready to invest adequate time and patience in the process. The stuff that we do as coaches does not happen overnight. It can take a year to introduce a new platform, get through all the tools, then practice the tools. It's one thing to introduce them, and it's another thing to really put them into practice.
mm,
And sometimes you need several reps of practicing a
yeah,
tool, I'd say, in order to get good at it and to appreciate the value.
mm,
So there's that patience piece. Ready to invest in a relationship rather than a transaction. A little repeated, but it's worth repeating.
mm,
And then to be focused and disciplined and action oriented. And this is a really big one, being decisive.
mm,
And so working with CEOs and owners and leadership teams who have the ability to make decisions or they are curious enough to learn how to make decisions.
mm.
Uh, so those are my standards. And when I see big gaps between my standards and a prospective client, it's time for me to slow down and ask some follow-up questions. And frankly, if there's not satisfaction, then it's probably not a good fit.
How do you feel that I love that, first off, of having those different filters that you can run through, but how does that look like when you're in a qualifying conversation, maybe an initial conversation or maybe a little bit down the road? What are maybe an example if we have that, or if you can just talk through conceptually what that looks like to help identify where they say something. Is it one time? Is it 3 red flags? I mean, what does that look like where you're going through that qualifying process and then you're realizing, this really isn't probably a good fit?
When I am vetting a new client, one of the tools I use that's frankly a leave behind asset for them is called a scaling up assessment. And it explores probably about 20 questions in the areas of people, strategy, execution, and cash, which is the kind of the foundation of scaling up. And through that, I can see pain points in the organization, strengths and pain points. It goes to the CEOs or owners and then their leadership team. And it also compares the CEO's responses to a peer group in a database. And so through that, I can kind of glean some of my standards and how they might play out and where there might be significant weaknesses that could also be kind of tied to some of my standards. And there might be there might be kind of an inverse relationship or
Mm,
disparity between them. But I always have a follow-up conversation with the CEO or owner about the results. And through that conversation, I learn a lot more about
mm,
their responses to those questions, which really touches on all of my standards.
yeah.
Like, the way that we interact really speaks to curiosity and
Mm,
innovation and the willingness to learn and consider new perspectives. And if that conversation is a lot of "yeah, but," and them just justifying how their way is the way, then I know, okay, this is probably not gonna be a very innovative, open-minded relationship. and may not be the best for me. And of course, you know, the money conversation is always an easy one. If the relationship starts where they're pinching pennies and they can't understand that it's truly an investment, as investing in a piece of stock would be an investment because the work will yield
Mhm.
returns, right? Then it's probably not a good relationship as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of switching gears a little bit here, but you obviously have a lot of experience in the restaurant industry,
Yeah, yeah.
but you have mentioned and there is some coaches would argue that maybe there are riches and niches. I don't know if niches, niches, I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
for the
yeah, yeah.
rhymes perspective, we'll
Yeah,
just say niches.
yeah, sounds good.
But there is lanes that you've played in that you're comfortable in, right? Let's play in that. But you have mentioned that for really a pursuit of greater fulfillment, that you're not just tied down to the restaurant industry. Can you talk a little bit about how you came to that conclusion and how you found that out of, hey, I want to look broader than just this one specific industry of being able to help that, even though my background says that I've been in this. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and I what I do wanna I'd like to lead with saying there's nothing wrong with a coach choosing to hang out in a niche or niche.
Whichever.
Uh, but for me, this goes back to my this insatiable curiosity
Mm,
to want to be a lifelong learner and continue to grow in different ways. So that is really the fuel, that kind of is my tailwind that pushes me forward, with wanting to work in different industries and different size companies as well. But I would also submit the idea of what got us here won't get us there.
mm,
And so fresh perspective is really important. And, sometimes if you are a SME, a subject matter expert that's always been in one niche, and then your client is asking you to solve a problem, you
mm,
might go back to what you've always gone back to, and what it's really required is innovation and a different way of thinking and an aha moment, that's hard to come up with sometimes if you're stuck in one world, right? And
mm.
so what I find is I will pull aspects of different industries that I work in into different client engagements, and it's really interesting how sometimes it's those different ways of handling things that lead to really innovative ideas.
I feel like I have pulled so many things in technology from my time back in landscaping, which is just wild because those
Yeah.
are just polar opposites.
Yeah, yeah,
But there are lessons that you learn in different ways of thinking about things that's just so valuable.
yeah,
And then when you boil it down, at the end of the day, organizations are there's not I mean, the nuts and bolts of how an organization runs are not drastically different. There are different paths and different, obviously, industries, but at the same time, there are still core parts of what makes an organization tick and to do it well. And so I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that then allows you to tap into some things. But I appreciate you sharing that. Switching gears now into a different core competency. So we've talked a lot about mastery together and just what that means. You've already alluded to that. I mean, really, even what you said just a second ago alludes perfectly and segues into this. But can you talk about what mastery looks like and how you maintain that competitive edge in a I don't know if I would call it a saturated industry, but there are a lot of coaches out there. How do you approach mastery to staying competitive?
Part of what I lean in on is actually how I chose to build myself back from my culinary days. Uh, it is very attractive to clients when you are a strategist and you're able to execute, when you can help plan and implement, because there are problems in both sides of those equation with so many businesses. You know, if you're just executing with no plan, then that's insanity. Uh, but you get nowhere if you're a great strategic planning team, but you can't get anything done, which happens quite often too, where teams have a real hard time executing. And so I would say that for me, this, the continual learning and how I fortify myself as a coach as I continue to think about actively both sides of those equations. How do we how do we identify the right strategy? That's not a strategic plan. That's coming up with the right strategy. Landing that strategy into a plan then becomes your strategic plan. But then how to operationalize it, how to activate it, how to create accountability, how to keep that rhythm of accountability because it's really easy to get out of the rhythm and people get tired about it. And if somebody's not watching, most people don't want to be under the lens. So they're like, hey, that's good with me. The person who is facilitating the meetings is kind of losing their rhythm. So, nobody's watching us anymore, kind of thing. And really, what you want to do is you want to create a team sense of co ownership. But I would say that kind of coming back to center in the question, just being able to really have a strength and strategy and execution, I think, is important. I continue to focus on it. And so with that in mind, I am always learning. And so professional development's very important. You mentioned earlier that I'm certified in a few things. And so through each of those certifications, I'm actually required to continue to learn
Hmm.
as a scaling up coach, as a SEPA, as a professional project manager, I have to continue to learn. And so it's through the lens of strategy and execution that I am constantly learning new tools and techniques and ways of thinking about things and human psychology as it relates to those. We mentioned certifications, courses, networking and collaboration, being curious and meeting new people and
Mm.
asking them provocative questions and understanding how they do things and being open to different ideas. I'd say reading and research is really important. Um, Getting feedback from my clients, like really open, honest feedback because I want to get better. So that's something else that I'm focused on. Mentorship and coaching. So I have my own coach, but I also am a mentor through a leadership group in the Triangle area of North Carolina, where I'll have a couple of mentees every year, and they are from the community, and I don't get paid anything. It's just
Mm.
me giving back. But I think that being a mentor helps in getting those reps also contribute to one's coaching practice and how you interact with people and how you shift between being a coach and being an advisor, which are different, right?
Mm.
And then I think the last thing is speaking engagements, podcasts, or speaking at conferences. I think that that can really help fortify your coaching techniques and probably bring in some new tools for you to consider in order to be successful in those engagements.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely something to be said about just the reps of getting, you know, being in a session room, getting that because there are situations that are gonna come up that after so many sessions, you're probably gonna have seen before, and so you
Mhm.
know how to respond to that. So I think there's so much wisdom to that, but I love the aspect of having this you having a coach, but then also you going in and mentoring others. It's kinda that always having like going up and then being able to invest back in. I love
Mhm.
that concept because there's value on both sides of that as you're working through and you're interacting with people that maybe not as quite far along as you are in their career journey and you're able to invest in them and pour into them. You're going to get things out of that that you probably wouldn't in another situation.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
also having that someone that's a little bit further down of being able to go into. So I love that you pointed that out. But you've also mentioned that you are a big reader.
Mm.
Are there any specific tools that you use or specific are you a nonfiction through and through, or do you go
Oh, no.
to all sorts of lanes? Can you kinda talk
Yeah.
through that how you read?
Yeah, sure. So if you don't mind, I'm going to recenter the topic as how I consume information.
Sure.
Because I think it's really we as coaches have to consume a lot of information,
Mm,
whether it's directly from our clients or it's we're trying to get ahead of things and learn and bring new tools and techniques and ideas. So, one tool that I lean on heavily is Blinkist.
yes.
And I love it, and it has a lot of business books, not all of them, and they're open to recommendations, that's for sure, but it has a ton of business books, and I get recommendations all the time, like, weekly, I probably get 10 to 20
Read
recommendations
this
for
one,
new
yeah.
books, right? And so I will check Blinkist first
Hmm,
and see if they have their summary, and what they do is they create summaries, and then there's an audio version of the summary too. So, if I am driving instead of being at my desk and being able to read, then I'll just listen to the summary. And if I find that there's enough uniqueness in the book, then I'll just buy it and I'll read the entire
then you're
book
good.
or might listen to it, more often as reading. If it sounds a lot like, other books that I have read and I already understand the concepts, might just leave it in Blinkist and just go
Mm,
back to the key points every once in a while. So that's then I also have an Audible account, so I'll listen to full books when I'm driving to see clients
mm,
or when I'm flying to see clients. I have Kindle. Some books though, like the ones that I'm like, "Ooh, this is gonna be a resource," right?
mm,
It's not just a good read, but it's a resource. Then I'll also buy them in paperback or hard
yeah.
copy, and I'll earmark them and all that good stuff.
Yep. Gotta
Yeah.
get the highlighters and the
Yeah,
pens
yeah,
and all that out, yeah.
yeah. There's something about holding a book, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm old school in that way.
Yeah.
My wife is like, "You need to sell some books before you buy some more. We don't have any more room." Like, there's always room. My, like, stairs on my, going up to my office are, like, lined with books right now. I'm like, "Oh boy, she was
Yeah.
right."
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
No, there's something about that hunger and that ambition to go in and learn, but I think you hit it because there is, and I have felt this tension. We are in a very content heavy culture now.
Mhm.
Everyone goes out and writes blogs and articles, and it almost feels like everyone has a book now.
Mhm.
And it is almost overwhelming. And
Mhm.
so I think a tool like Blinkist is great because then, and I love it's not replacing the resource or the book or diving into that. It's more of almost a qualification of, let me invest. I'm not sure how long the summaries are, but maybe 10, 15 minutes. I don't know. Like, but you
Mhm.
go in and I can give 10 minutes to understand if this book is going to be worth anything. And then, man, this is really good. Let me
Mhm.
dive into this. And then I can go in, and that saves you from having all sorts of resources that you may have eight of the same one, but then you can utilize this tool. So I appreciate you sharing that a little bit.
Mhm. Yeah, my pleasure.
I'm a big reader as well. And it, those little tools are great because it allows you to understand just a summary of it is sometimes all you need to get the key points and then determine, yes, I want to dive into this, or no, already feel like I'm comfortable on this.
Yeah,
um
there's a real balance in life, right? Between, like, certainly the concept and the work that we're doing of bringing new ideas to our client partners
mm,
and being well read, but the other idea is this is all you get. Like, this is it. Time is our greatest asset, and so that sensitivity to not burn a lot of time reading about the same idea, kinda just, worded in a slightly
mm.
different way. I'm sensitive about that. So, back to Blinkist, it is such an easy investment. I think it's like $100 a year or something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
If for a tool that I use, like, every day.
Right.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
And it probably would even, I mean, as it starts to learn, you may give recommendations based on like previous type, resources. So then you're probably learning new books maybe. So
Mhm.
so on let's keep going on the tech stack aspect where we have, a little bit of Blinkist from a development aspect, but what other technologies do you utilize? Do you have a CRM for how you manage your clients or any other practice management tools? I'd love to learn a little bit more about that if you don't mind sharing.
No, no, I don't. I use ClickUp
Yeah,
for my CRM. And then the other 2 pieces of software, and then I use a variety of other pieces of software, and it really depends on my client. So
sure.
2 pieces of software I'll use with many of my clients. One is, it's scaling up cash. It's fueled by, cash flow story. That is for really planning and monitoring, profitability and cash
Mm,
flow, and it has some really great valuation tools in it so you can track the improvement of enterprise value over time. And then another piece of software and associated reports is Capitalize, and that's a pretty fantastic planning and valuation tool that is certainly more focused on a company that's really intentional about exiting. So,
Mm,
I'd use certainly the scaling up cash with any client, and then Capitalize with clients, and then as well, I would use Capitalize with clients who are intending to exit in a certain
mm,
period of time. So those are two pieces of software that I use pretty frequently, and then as well, I meet my I meet my clients where they're at, and so it's a really interesting point you bring up. I think another aspect of being a really good business coach is being a technophile, truly loving and embracing technology, and, that oftentimes will mean meeting our clients where they're at. So, for example, I love 90.io. It's a fantastic piece of software, but some of my clients just got done implementing an ERP,
mm,
and they have no more gas in the tank to learn another piece of software,
mm.
right? And so there's a timing thing
Yes.
going on where it's not a, never to 90, it's a, this is not the right time to implement a new piece of software with them.
Yeah.
So, I'll build an environment in Google Sheets if they're a
Mm,
Google shop, or in Microsoft Excel 365 if they're a Microsoft shop, and create a simple tool to track all of the key elements going from strategic planning through our weekly meeting rhythms,
yeah.
right? And it's simple. There are a lot of bells and whistles that you get in 90, but it gets us by for the time being.
Mm,
And then when they're ready, then we go back to a more sophisticated tool that's programmed by talented folks like your team, and then we'll implement those new tools. Um,
mm,
I've used Asana and ClickUp and Trello, uh, and had to stay agile and creative,
mm.
because sometimes this is what you get. This it's an Asana shop. They're not going to adopt anything other than Asana. And by the way, Asana is a perfectly fantastic program too. Uh, and so you just kind of have to figure out, like, where am I going to put all this stuff to make it work? So I would say that that's my bit on
Mm.
technology, is that it's part of our jobs as business coaches to really embrace technology, to know technology, and to work with our clients to kind of meet them where they're at. And then hopefully we'll get that window when the pain's enough where we can bring in a new piece of technology that really optimizes that kind of strategic
Yes.
planning, lands it somewhere, allows us to convert strategy to tactics, and then create accountability, which 90 does so well.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you saying that. Didn't make him say that, so I appreciate that.
That's true.
No, yeah, yeah. No, but it's so true though, because I think it goes back to what I said earlier. I mean, it's a content heavy culture now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that goes in with software heavy too. It can very easily be you have 10 softwares to run your business before you know it. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's too much. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom to be said around there of understanding where your clients are at, where are they at in their specific organizational journey, and
Mhm.
then understanding, you're not gonna be a master of everything, but at least understanding where the different tech stack is gonna come in
Yeah.
so you can recommend that. I love that because I do see, and how would you challenge, because there is sometimes a little bit of a, not a stigma, but maybe that's the best way to explain it, around technology in the business coaching world. How would you counteract that even more than what you've already said to a coach that's maybe like, "No, it's the conceptual that matters." How would you
Oh,
argue the usage of technology and almost what you just explained?
yeah. I mean, I think that the tools are what create the insurance policy for creating accountability and getting results.
Hmm,
And so, I agree that part of our job as a business coach is the conceptual and the vision and landing the strategy, right? But all of that information has to land somewhere.
hmm,
And I think we're doing our clients a disservice if we don't land it somewhere that is actionable. And when I say actionable, okay, you might not take action with a finalized vision statement, but at least accessible, easily accessible. So,
Mm,
for example, with core values, when we're going to make a really important hiring decision
mhm,
or deciding if we want to do it, go and get into a JV with company XYZ, we have easy access to our core values to say, does this meet who we are?
mm,
Right? Oh, it sure does. Great. There's an action though that we need here. Yep, right here, because we're right in the system where our core values live, and we can create an action item. But now an issue comes up. You're
mm,
right. We didn't think about the whole insurance play here. And we need to talk about that as a team. Well, where's that going to go?
mm,
Oh, well, we have an area for issues. And we're going to talk about that at our next strategy meeting, our next 90-minute meeting next week. And so having a place to put everything is so important. I think as a business coach, you create such a more substantial asset,
mm,
a stronger return on investment for your client if you insist that there's a place to put everything.
hmm.
And the easier you can access it, the better.
Man, couldn't have said it better myself. That's great.
That's where it's at.
Yeah,
That
it
is
is.
really
I
where
mean,
it's at.
because there's so much information, and I'm a communication guy, right? There is
Mm,
so much loss of communication because
yeah.
it stays in someone's head, and they're the ones that has that information, and they're the gateholder of that, and it doesn't get documented anywhere, or
Or
it's
Cam, it's a picture of a whiteboard from your
yes,
session that's in somebody's drive, who
right,
knows where it is, rather than landed in a piece of software that
yes,
everybody can access, and they're like, "Yep, that was from our meeting on December 3rd, and that was our final vision
mm,
statement that everybody agreed to. We have a single source of truth. We know where to
right,
go for this," right?
yes.
So important.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, thank you so much for coming on and sharing just so much wisdom. I've enjoyed this conversation, but I always like to ask guests just two questions as we conclude. And the
Yeah.
first one is, if you had to go back to rookie Ben with all the knowledge and experience and all of the different frameworks that you've taught and experiences you've had with clients, with all that knowledge, what advice would you give yourself just starting out?
So I'm gonna change the context a little bit of your question. I'm gonna answer the question, but the answer might be unexpected.
Okay.
And this goes out to the owners and the CEOs of the world.
Hmm,
I would pay more attention to my health.
hmm,
I would really focus on mind, body, and soul health. And I am into Peter Attia and Andrew Herberman, and so like understanding what your VO2 max is to know
mhm,
that your cardiovascular health is good. And, we as owners and CEOs and business leaders, we should be accustomed to KPIs. So knowing your VO2 max, knowing your ApoB, which is a measurement of your cholesterol. It's one of the now I think it's probably one of the most important measures of good health. Your A1C for blood sugar.
hmm,
And here's the reason why I'm saying this: the mind, body, and soul health. We have an entire organization counting on us,
hmm,
right? They're counting on our good energy and our positive attitude and setting an example. And we have all the stresses of running a business. And it's no joke, it is lonely at the top, and the healthier you are,
hmm,
the better energy, the better psyche you're gonna have, the better you're gonna feel going home and being a spouse or a parent to your children. And so that is what I am consuming that advice myself.
hmm,
And I'm not saying it's easy to do, but I would say that that is some solid self-advice. And for others is like, get vigilant about, like, owning your health,
hmm.
mind, body, and soul.
Man, that's yes, that's a good word, whether you are, like you said, a business leader or a business coach, because it can be so easy to just white knuckle and grind and go,
Yeah,
go, 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 go. Because I feel like especially with the kind of people that I am surrounded with at 90, whether that's ambitious founders or ambitious coaches.
Yeah.
There's this idea of ambition, which typically means working really hard and
Yeah.
going after something, and
Run
it's
fast.
so easy to neglect
Yeah.
the most important thing is your health. And if
Yeah.
you can't be healthy, you can't be going at that same pace. And
Well,
so
here's
that's
a cool thing, Cam, is that if you are healthy, if you prioritize that, other people will see that.
yes.
Then they are gonna feel the license to do the same thing themselves because there is no mistake a power dynamic,
Mm,
right, between the CEO and owner and the rest of their company, and if they see that that's okay, it is
mm,
okay for me to focus on not only okay, but it's recommended that I focus on my well-being, my health, then you're gonna have a team of healthy people, and you're gonna be able to actually run faster because
yes.
everybody is fit in every way, right? Yeah.
Yes. Good stuff. And then second question that I always like to ask, and you can be as open, vulnerable, whatever you want on this question as you'd like, but what is a lesson that you're in the middle of learning right now in this moment?
I would say that, knowing that mental health this is back to health, but this is
Mm,
a sensitive topic,
yeah.
that everybody needs help to make sure that their psyche is in check, and that not only is it okay, but it is highly intelligent, I would submit,
Mm,
for all of us to have a therapist.
yes.
Somebody who is they are subject matter experts
Mm,
at tuning up our brains and our psyche. Why wouldn't we hire somebody
yeah.
that is an expert at doing that? They have tools in their toolkit that we can't imagine until we learn them. And so I'm in the middle. I have become practiced recently at that, and it's so very helpful for
Mm,
a variety of different reasons, right? And I would really share that with everybody else that listens to this podcast. It's okay. There's nothing broken about
yeah.
us getting a therapist. It's just like hiring a mechanic. You're not gonna fix your car yourself because you don't even know how to. Or
Right.
you might see the tool, but you really don't know how to use it.
Mm.
And so that's my response to that question.
Man, that's good. I appreciate you sharing that. Good word. I've got a therapist, and it is very helpful to get things out and have that sounding board. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so if people want to get in touch with you, maybe they want to learn a little bit more about your coaching services, or maybe they do as a peer to peer want to dialogue on some of the things we
Sure.
talked about. What's the best place to get in touch with you?
Yeah, hey, thanks for asking that. So my website is ACUO, I pronounce it ACUO, so ACUO hyphen BC, that stands for business consulting, .com. And then my email address is ben@acuo-bc.com. If you decide to email me, if you wouldn't mind popping in 90.io podcast, it'll just help me understand how we were connected. But I'd be happy to connect with you and share my story and look forward to hearing yours as well.
Love that. Yeah, we'll link all that out in the show notes, and some of the other tools that Ben has mentioned and some concepts. We'll link out to all those in the show notes. So if people are interested in getting in touch with you. But Ben, thank you so much for coming on and having this
Yeah.
conversation. I know I have benefited from it. Lots of just tidbits of wisdom of just your experience. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing that. And for those of you that are listening, we are passionate about helping ambitious coaches build their practice. We're still learning all of this as we're going out and having dialogues. But as we talk to ambitious coaches like Ben, we learn more about that. So if you want to dialogue on that, feel free to reach out to me. Would be happy to talk with you and learn more about your practice and some of the goals of how we can come in and help you build the practice of your dreams. Thanks. Take care.
Cheers.
That's it for today's episode of the Ambitious Coach Lab. My hope is that something here helps you sharpen your craft and keep building a coaching practice you're proud of. Before we wrap, a quick thank you to our sponsor, 90. If you're coaching leadership teams, having your clients run their entire world in 90 truly elevates your work. Vision, rocks, scorecards, issues, it all lives in one centralized place. The clarity keeps your clients aligned between sessions and makes every conversation you have with them more focused and more impactful. I've used 90 with over 500 leadership teams, and I can tell you it makes great companies better and great coaches even more effective. Feel free to use promo code AC20 for 20% off. Again, that's AC20 for 20% off. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I'm Cam, cheering you on as you grow your ambitious coaching practice. We'll see you next time.